Marketing Strategy for Authors. Written by Tao Wong. Narrated by Shannon Thompson. The Product Life Cycle. Now that we've talked about products and the various ways you should consider how your product can be created, it's time to consider product lifecycle management. The idea behind product lifecycle management is that each product, in our case, we can look at it as either a book, a series, or a genre, has distinct phases. The idea is that how you handle the product lifecycle varies, so knowing where you are at, you can play with it. Basically, there are three assumptions made when we look at a product lifecycle. 1. Products have a limited lifespan, in other words, declining interest after a certain period. 2. Product sales pass through distinct stages, each posing different challenges, opportunities, and problems to the seller. 3. Products require different marketing, financing, and time requirements at each stage. The 4 stages of a product life cycle. Introduction. This is when a book launches or is first introduced via cover reveals, mentions on a blog, etc. The goal of the introduction stage is to build product awareness, start people on the sales funnel, and get them excited. At this point, the fixed cost of producing your book, your time, editing, cover costs, etc., is very high. Your returns are thus in the negative for the most part. Growth. In this stage, the product has been introduced and has some customers. The goal here is to increase the customer base by expanding promotions to get the product into more hands. This is where most people throw their marketing dollars, buying ads and newspaper promotions, excitedly telling everyone about the new release. If you think of the Amazon cycles, 14, 30, 60, and 90-day algorithm cycles, this is often within the first 14 days when Amazon is really pushing and might or might not drop promotional efforts for your work. This stage can last for a while, depending on how fast uptake of your product occurs. This can also extend for the full month, 30-day cliff on Amazon. Side note, these cycles, or you might see them called cliffs, are not the same for all retailers, nor are they likely to stay the same for Amazon. Remember, the retailer's job at the end of the day is to sell the most number of books. Pushing new product is generally the best way, but a work that consistently sells well will still be promoted. Maturity. In the mature stage of a product, it's been out in the market for a while. A while can vary for each book and genre, from a few weeks to a few years. For us indie publishers, this could literally be between 14 to 28 days after you release the book. Amazon isn't pushing your book as hard anymore, so you need to get out there and do your own marketing. At this point, the vast majority of early adopters and the early majority should have picked up your product. The late majority are who you should be targeting. Furthermore, you are looking at people who have heard about your product but are still on the fence. At this point, one thing you could possibly do is market to other audiences, putting additional people into your sales funnel to bring in new readers. This could be via other newsletters, Facebook ads, AMS ads, newsletter swaps, etc. Hopefully, you've earned back your initial outlay and returns are better. Your upfront cost as a publisher is gone, so it's just the variable cost of marketing. Many publishers and/or authors start lagging at this stage, forgetting about their backlist. As mentioned, this period can be anywhere from 14 days after your release, for extremely hungry but small markets, to after the 90-day cliff, for most. In a mature product scenario, your goal is to draw in as many customers as possible for the product before it declines entirely. Saturation and decline. This is where your book has reached the vast majority of readers in the market. no one is buying book 1 again because either they've discounted it or they've bought it. This is the 1/4 of the product adoption chart, which is shown below, where you are getting laggards in. Your market in the genre is filled, and for the book itself, additional marketing to the current audience is wasting good money. There are 2 things to consider here. This is assuming you have not expanded your initial audience, which means, in many cases, expanding your marketing to new areas. Expanding promotion to new audiences is a way to gain new readers, which is why, at times, writing in multiple genres with multiple series can lead to sales increases in old series. This is why having more books out is good. It can also be targeting new people with your Facebook ads or other promotional tactics. See above. This assumes you haven't or don't intend to release your next book in series yet. Realize that you can look at the stages of the life cycle for individual products and a series too. At that point, the marketing for book 1 might be best achieved to catch up the laggards by releasing book 2 or 3, or whatever book you are looking to release. The production adoption cycle. I mentioned laggards in the above section. This is a chart depicting technological adoption that has some relevance to this discussion. Basically, how people pick up new innovations or books, etc. This chart can be viewed in the companion PDF to this audiobook. The yellow line is % of market saturation. Blue line is the groups adopting. Something to think about if you're looking at where you are when you're marketing your product. As it pertains to the publishing industry, the biggest question to ask is, does this model work with the publishing industry and/or individual books or series? The answer in my mind is, sort of. It can be arguable because certain works transcend basic product lifecycle management, especially public domain work. It is also arguable about whether the market ever saturates per se, because new readers are always growing up and entering the market. I've read before that many markets cycle in around 5 to 7 years for reading, where new readers come in and old readers fall out. And so, old books, which are saturated in the old market, might be able to come back, restarting the life cycle in a few years. Furthermore, as an indie publisher, if you are writing in a broad genre, like space opera, it's very, very unlikely that your initial book will ever reach the mature stage or saturation. There are so many readers, and your marketing budget is so tiny in comparison. Look at the sales between James Patterson for a thriller and even the highest-selling indie publisher. There's a difference of millions. But if you can catch even 10%, you'd be making a pretty good living. As with most models, take it with a grain of salt and realize it's trying to describe something complex in a few words. Major takeaways. Products shift and grow old for individuals. You can saturate a market. Think of a market as a marketing channel, like, say, a Facebook group. So remember not to overstay your welcome and spread it out. You can, often, compress the product adoption cycle using certain tactics, but there will always be early adopters and laggards. Affecting the early adopters can speed up your adoption speed. However, you will face diminishing returns on your marketing spend as you saturate a market. Plan your timeline around the stages and how fast you want each stage to hit. Consider how introduction of your product and series works, how you'll hit the growth stage and what marketing you'll use, and then how to push the product into early and late adopters, the bulk of your market, and in what time frame.